I still remember the night my family decided I was no longer one of them. Not because I committed a crime, not because I betrayed them, but because I married a man who worked with his hands, a welder. They said it with such disgust that you'd think I'd married an outlaw. My mother's exact words still echo in my bones. You're throwing your future away for a man who smells like metal and smoke. Your sister chose a man who owns half the city. You chose him. As if his name wasn't worth speaking. But I didn't care, not then, not for years. Because Ethan was good, solid, steady, kind. A man who loved me quietly but fiercely, the way real men love when they live outside the spotlight. The night I told my family I was marrying him, my father turned his back. My mother cried dramatically, begging me to reconsider. My sister, Olivia, smirked in that perfect, polished way of hers and said, "You always did like playing poor." The next morning, they told me not to come back. They didn't mean just the house, they meant the family, and so 26-year-old me walked away with a single suitcase, a man who held my hand like I was made of starlight, and a heart that refused to break. Our life wasn't glamorous. Our apartment was tiny, the walls were thin. Sometimes Ethan came home so exhausted that he fell asleep still wearing his boots. But he laughed with me, danced with me in the kitchen, kissed my forehead every morning, and never once made me feel like choosing him was a loss. Meanwhile, my sister married a billionaire businessman, Lucas Harrington. There were magazine spreads, helicopter entrances, diamond necklaces as big as my thumb. She lived the life my parents always dreamed of, and flaunted it constantly. Every now and then, I'd get a message from my mother. Not to ask how I was, oh no, but to send photos of Olivia in Italy, Olivia on a yacht, Olivia at charity galas dripping in designer labels, Olivia in a dress worth more than my car. Then came the worst message. "We don't want you coming to family events anymore. It upsets Olivia when you show up looking ordinary." I deleted the message and everyone after it. Years passed, and slowly, quietly, Ethan and I built something beautiful. We didn't stay poor, but that was our secret, because Ethan's welding wasn't just welding. He was creating custom high-end structural designs for private clients, quietly, confidentially. Architects whispered his name like a spell. A billionaire hired him to build a staircase that became a viral architectural masterpiece. A luxury hotel contracted him to create metalwork that became the centerpiece of their grand lobby. Money started coming in slow at first, then like a river breaking free. But Ethan didn't change, and neither did I. Our home grew bigger, our cars nicer, investments multiplied, but we didn't post it, didn't flaunt it, didn't inform my family. Why? Because the moment they'd discover we weren't struggling, they'd come knocking, pretending they cared, pretending they accepted us, pretending they hadn't thrown me away like trash. I wasn't giving them that satisfaction. Then came the invitation, a glittering business gala, the kind attended by tycoon CEO, royalty visiting the country. Normally, I didn't go to such events, and Ethan hated them even more. But this one, it was honoring the anonymous designer of a groundbreaking luxury architectural project Ethan created. Anonymous because he never wanted attention. Never wanted the spotlight, but tonight he had to step into it, just once. I wore a black gown, simple but impossibly elegant, the kind that whispered money without screaming it. My hair swept up, a diamond bracelet on my wrist that Ethan had designed himself, more valuable than anything my sister ever flaunted. The moment I stepped into the grand hall, I felt eyes follow me. But I kept my head high. Then I heard her laugh, that high, polished, rehearsed laugh that always sounded like glass about to crack. Olivia. She was dressed like she always dreamed, in gold silk dripping diamonds, standing beside the billionaire husband she'd practically auditioned for. She looked at me, really looked at me, then scanned my dress, my hair, the graceful confidence she didn't understand. Her smirk sharpened like a blade. Well, what's a poor welder's wife doing here? Her voice wasn't loud, but loud enough for nearby people to hear. Some turned, some whispered. I didn't flinch, but before I could respond, Lucas, her powerful, wealthy, untouchable husband, turned toward me, and the moment his eyes met mine, his skin drained of color. Not surprised and not caught off guard. No, he looked terrified. His Adam's apple bobbed, his breath stuttered, his hand dropped from Olivia's waist. I frowned. Did I know him? Then his lips parted in shock and recognition. Oh my God, I did know him from years before, long before he ever met Olivia, long before my family worshipped him, long before he became the billionaire golden boy. He knew me, and not in a small way. Not in a forgettable way, but in a way that could destroy him. Olivia noticed his panic. She stepped closer to him. Lucas, what's wrong? He didn't answer. He couldn't. He was staring at me like I was holding a loaded gun. Slowly, very slowly, he whispered, Evelyn. My sister froze. What? Why are you saying her name like that? But his eyes, they weren't filled with recognition. They were filled with fear. Fear of the truth Ethan had kept hidden. Fear of the identity my family never imagined. Fear because the man they mocked, the man they called poor, the man Olivia laughed at, was not who they thought he was, and Lucas knew the truth. A truth Olivia would soon learn. A truth the entire hall would learn, because my husband, my poor welder, was more powerful and more dangerous than any businessman in that glittering room. And Lucas looked like he had just seen his empire burn. I stepped closer, my voice calm. You remember me, Lucas. His breath hitched. Olivia grabbed his arm. Lucas, what is happening? Why do you know her? But she didn't understand, not yet. I smiled slightly. Because the night was only beginning, and the truth was explosive. Because my husband's real identity was the air in that glittering hall thickened so sharply that even the soft music from the string quartet felt like it froze mid-note. People sensed something a crack in the perfect surface of the night. Lucas Harrington, billionaire, media sweetheart, board chairman of 3 international companies, stood trembling because of me, but really because of Ethan. My sister Olivia kept tightening her grip on her husband's arm, confusion turning into suspicion, suspicion into panic. Lucas, she hissed under her breath, why are you looking at her like that? Do you know her? He didn't answer her. He couldn't. His eyes were locked on me with the same fear a man might show if he thought the past was about to drag him underwater. Finally, he swallowed hard and whispered, Evelyn, I didn't know you were married to. He stopped. Abruptly, like he just realized saying the next words could cost him everything. My pulse stayed steady. Years of holding my silence had made me colder, calmer. You didn't know I was married to who, Lucas? His jaw tightened. Olivia kept demanding answers. What is going on? Do you two know each other from before? Why didn't you tell me? Lucas flinched and his gaze flicked just once, to the far end of the hall where Ethan was standing. Tall, quiet, hands clasped behind his back. Charcoal suit that fit him like it was made by the gods. A clean line of stubble along a jaw that could cut stone. Eyes that watched everything without a single flicker of concern. But more than anything else, a posture, solid, authoritative, dangerous, the posture of a man used to power, not welding fumes. Guests were beginning to notice, faces turned, whispers circled. Someone asked quietly, isn't that the man they're honoring tonight, the anonymous metal architect? And it began, the unraveling. Lucas tore his eyes away from Ethan and lowered his voice to a shaky whisper. I thought he left the country. I thought he disappeared. I almost laughed. My sister stared at her husband like he was a stranger. What are you talking about? Who exactly did Evelyn marry? Lucas dragged a hand down his face. He looked like a man who had just realized he was standing on a trapdoor. Ethan Williams, he whispered. Olivia blinked, so. Lucas closed his eyes. That's not his real name. Shock rippled through Olivia's face. That man, Lucas continued, voice barely audible, is the owner of Titan Industrial Design. A gasp jumped from someone behind us. Another whispered, no, that's impossible. Titan is worth billions. More murmurs followed. Titan Industrial Design, a name that made CEOs shift in their seats. A company known for cutting. Edge structural engineering, Avant. Guard design, and projects that cost more than some cities' budgets. And yes, its founder had disappeared from the public eye 8 years ago, rumored to have sold stakes quietly, rumored to have stepped into a private, reclusive life. Ethan, my Ethan, but only I knew the full story. Only I knew why he'd left everything behind, why he changed his name, why he welded with his own 2 hands instead of sitting in a penthouse overlooking the skyline. He walked away from an empire the way some men walk away from a lie. But Lucas knew him from the old world, the world Ethan had abandoned. Olivia's voice wavered. Lucas, are you saying? Her throat bobbed. You're telling me my sister's husband is wealthier than then? Lucas didn't answer. He didn't need to, because right then Ethan began walking toward us, not fast, not slow, just steady, like a man approaching a moment he'd expected for years. He stopped beside me, his fingers brushing mine, barely, their touch that grounded everything inside me. His presence was a silent thunderstorm. Olivia stared at him, stunned, her mouth parted. Lucas forced a laugh, then cracked, trembling, Ethan, I didn't know you'd be here. I swear I didn't know Evelyn was your— Ethan cut him off with the slightest tilt of his head. Lucas, that was it, just his name, and Lucas nearly stumbled backward. My sister looked between them, eyes wide. You lied to me. She whispered at her husband. You told me Titan's founder vanished, that he was irrelevant, that you were the one who took over everything. Ethan didn't smile, didn't gloat. He simply looked at Lucas with quiet, unshakable certainty. You built your legacy using my designs, Ethan said softly, but you never expected to see me again. Olivia's head snapped toward Lucas. What does he mean? You told me Titan's groundbreaking projects were your ideas. You said the staircase design that won the architectural award was. It was mine. Ethan corrected calmly. You know it, I know it, the board knows it. Olivia staggered backward like someone slapped her. Lucas shook his head. I didn't steal anything. You left. You walked away. The company needed leadership. Ethan's expression didn't change, and you gave yourself credit for my work. People were crowding now. Phones quietly lifted, whispers spreading like wildfire. Lucas grabbed his wife's arm. We should go now. But Olivia wasn't moving. Her eyes were glued to me all this time. We disowned you for choosing a welder, she said slowly, like every word was cutting her from the inside out. And the man I married stole from your husband. Not stole, Ethan corrected. He merely pretended. Olivia looked betrayed, humiliated, broken, and that was just the beginning. Lucas suddenly stepped closer to me. Evelyn, please, he said, desperation cracking through his polished businessman mask. Don't tell anyone what you know. If this gets out, the board will remove me. Investors will lose confidence, my reputation. His voice faded when Ethan moved slightly in front of me, not in a threatening way, but protective, deadly protective. Lucas, Ethan said quietly, you should worry less about your reputation, and more about the audit I initiated 2 months ago. Lucas froze. What audit? Ethan raised an eyebrow. The one that will reveal where all the missing funds went, the ones funneled into your private accounts. Olivia gasped so loud the entire room heard her. You're stealing from the company, she shrieked. Lucas grabbed her arm again, panic flooding his features. Olivia, stop. This is not the place. But she yanked away as if his touch burned her. You liar, she screamed. You told me you were expanding, that the money was tied up in investments. That's why you cut off half of my spending accounts. Ethan's voice cut through her hysteria, calm as water. He didn't cut them to save money. He cut them to cover his tracks. The room erupted. Cameras now openly recorded. Security eyed the scene anxiously. A few board members who recognized Lucas began whispering among themselves with dark, heavy expressions. Olivia stepped toward me, her voice shaking. You knew. Her eyes were glossy, wild. You knew his real identity. Yes. I said simply, and you didn't tell us. You didn't tell me. Why would I? I asked softly, but the softness was sharpened steel. You threw me away. I owed you nothing. She flinched hard. My mother's voice suddenly cut through the crowd. She and my father had just arrived, escorted in like royalty. Olivia, sweetheart, what's happening? They saw me. Then they saw Ethan beside me. Then they heard someone whisper. That's the founder of Titan Industrial Design. That's her husband, the billionaire who disappeared. My mother's face twisted, disbelief and greed fighting to take control. She reached for me. Evelyn, why didn't you tell us? Why didn't you come home? I stepped back. You told me not to, remember. Her face drained of color, but I wasn't finished. You said I embarrassed the family. You said I was beneath you because I married a welder. You told me you were ashamed of me. My father opened his mouth, but Ethan spoke before he could. She didn't come back because I made sure she didn't have to. He placed an arm around my waist finally openly. and the entire hall shifted its attention to him. He wasn't a nobody anymore. He wasn't a secret. He wasn't a welder in their eyes. He was the man who owned a massive empire, who had walked away from billions, who had worked with his own hands because he preferred honesty over luxury, who had quietly built a second fortune without ever flaunting it, and he was mine. Lucas, now desperate, lunged forward. "Ethan, please, if you expose me, everything I've built." Ethan cut him off. "You built nothing." His voice dropped to a cold whisper that cracked like thunder. "You stole, lied, manipulated. You married into a family that worships money because you knew they'd protect you at all costs." Olivia's face collapsed, her perfect world shattering. Lucas tried again, frantic. "Ethan, please." Ethan didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. He simply said, "Security." Two men in black suits appeared instantly, as if they'd been waiting for the cue. Lucas turned pale, almost ghostly. No, wait, Ethan, please, this can be handled privately." But the truth was no longer private, not anymore. Olivia grabbed Lucas's jacket, shaking him. "Tell me it's a lie. Tell me you didn't steal. Tell me you didn't use his designs. Tell me." Lucas didn't answer. He couldn't, because the security guards were already escorting him away. The billionaire golden boy of the family, their pride, their shining star, was being dragged across the ballroom floor in front of cameras, investors, CEO, and social elites. Olivia collapsed into a chair, sobbing, her makeup streaking down her face. My mother stood frozen. My father looked like someone punched him. No one moved, no one spoke, until Ethan gently took my hand. "Ready to go?" he asked quietly. I nodded, and as we walked out of that glittering hall together, every eye on us shocked, speechless, humbled, I felt something inside me finally settle. Not revenge, not triumph. Just peace, because the girl they threw away had built a life they couldn't even imagine, and the poor welder they mocked was a man the world respected, feared, admired. As we stepped into the cool night air, Ethan squeezed my hand. "You okay?" he asked softly. I looked up at him. "My husband, my anchor, my greatest decision. I'm perfect." I whispered, and I meant it. The car ride home from the gala was silent, but not the uncomfortable kind of silence. It was the kind that settles after a storm, heavy, calming, and strangely peaceful. City lights blurred past the windows, soft gold reflections dancing inside the car. Ethan drove with one hand, the other resting over mine. His thumb brushed my knuckles now and then, grounding me the way he always did. But my mind was still back in that glittering ballroom, the gasps, the shock, my sister's crumbling world, the truth finally detonating after years of silence. I should have felt triumphant, vindicated, satisfied, but instead I felt conflicted, not about Lucas, not about my parents, not about the family that threw me away the moment my life didn't fit their narrative, but about Olivia. Despite everything she'd done, despite her cruelty, her superiority, her mocking laughter, her obsession with status, she was still my sister. And I had just watched her entire world collapse within a single chandelier-lit evening. She wasn't innocent, not by far, but she didn't deserve a husband who built an empire on lies. Ethan sensed my spiraling thoughts. "You're thinking about her," he said softly, not looking away from the road. "I don't know what she'll do," I whispered. "She'll survive," he said simply. "She's built for comfort, not collapse, but she'll survive." "Do you think she hates me?" I asked before I could stop myself. Ethan squeezed my hand. "She hated you long before tonight," he said gently, "but that wasn't your doing. It was her insecurity, her obsession with comparing your life to hers." I closed my eyes, letting his words settle. "She'll blame me," I said. "Olivia will blame anyone except the person actually responsible." Ethan replied calmly, "And that person is Lucas." I sighed. "Will he go to jail?" "That depends on how much he stole," Ethan said, "and how much the board wants blood." "And you?" Ethan paused at a red light, turning to look at me. There was a softness in his eyes that only appeared when it was just us. "No masks, no secrets. I didn't expose him tonight," he said. "I gave him 3 years to come clean. He didn't, that's on him." I nodded. "And if the board asks you to return?" He smiled slightly. "I won't. You're sure? I'm done with that world, Evelyn." He reached over, brushing a strand of hair behind my ear. I built Titan because I loved the work. I left Titan because I hated what it turned me into. And what was that? I asked softly, a man who forgot what mattered. We stayed quiet then. By the time we reached our home, a large modern villa tucked behind tall hedges, quiet and peaceful, I felt a strange heaviness leave my chest. Ethan parked the car, came around, opened my door, and walked me inside. Even after years of marriage, he still did little things like that, carefully, gently, with intention. Inside, the house was warm, safe. He poured me a glass of water and wrapped an arm around me from behind. "You were incredible tonight," he murmured into my hair. "I didn't do anything. You held your ground," he said, "and you told the truth without shouting. That takes strength." His chin rested on my shoulder. I leaned back into him, but just when I thought the night was over, my phone buzzed. Olivia. Seeing her name on the screen felt like being stabbed with an icicle. Ethan tensed. "You don't have to talk to her. I know. You can block her. I know. You owe her nothing. I know." But I still picked up, because some wounds don't close without bleeding first. Her voice came through immediately. Shaky, breathless, broken. "Evelyn, are you home?" "Yes. Can I? Can I come over?" I closed my eyes. I could have said no. I should have said no. But cruelty wasn't in me, even if she'd fed it to me for years. "Come," I whispered. Ethan didn't protest. He simply nodded, kissed my forehead, and said, "I'll be right here." Olivia arrived 30 minutes later. Her makeup was ruined, her hair falling out of its perfect style, her dress wrinkled. She looked nothing like the polished golden girl my parents adored. She looked human, fragile, shaken. She stood in the doorway, hesitating. "Can I come in?" I stepped aside silently. She walked in slowly, her arms wrapped around herself like the world was too cold. The moment she saw Ethan, she flinched, not in fear, but in disbelief. "You lied to everyone," she whispered to him. "You lived like a nobody. I lived like myself," Ethan said calmly. "There's a difference." She turned to me, her eyes searching my face. "You knew," she said in a trembling voice, "all these years. You knew who he really was, and you said nothing. I didn't think it mattered." I replied. She let out a small, broken laugh. It mattered to me. There it was, the truth, not anger, not envy, just loss. Olivia sank down onto the sofa, her shoulders slumping. "Everything was a lie," she whispered. "Everything Lucas showed me, everything he bragged about, everything he claimed. It was all your husband's work." She looked up. "And you lived quietly with him while I spent my life trying to prove I was better than you." Her voice cracked on the last words. I sat across from her. Ethan stayed beside me, silent but present. Olivia spoke again, her tone barely audible. "I was cruel to you." "Yes," I said softly, "you were." "And I pushed you out of the family." "Yes." "And I mocked your marriage." "Yes." She looked up with wet eyes. "How do you not hate me?" "I didn't need to hate you," I said quietly. "You were already hurting yourself doing all that." She pressed her shaking hands to her face. After a long moment, she whispered, "Did Lucas love me?" Silence. It hung heavy, suffocating. Finally, Ethan answered. Gently but honestly, he loved your family's name, your access, your parents' connections, and he loved that you worshipped the image he built. Olivia broke down completely then, silent, shaking sobs that she tried to muffle. I didn't touch her, not yet. Some grief needs space. After several minutes, she lifted her head. "Will he go to prison?" she asked. "Perhaps," Ethan answered, "but he'll certainly lose everything." Olivia wiped her eyes. "So what happens to me?" I exhaled. "What do you want to happen?" She stared at me, then around the room, taking in the calm, the warmth, the life I'd built without fanfare. Finally, she whispered, "I want what you have." I blinked. She went on, voice fragile. "I want peace. I want a marriage that's real. I want a life that isn't built on pretending to be better than someone else." My throat tightened. Ethan stood and quietly excused himself, giving us privacy. Olivia leaned closer. "I don't expect forgiveness," she whispered, "and I don't deserve it. But I don't have anyone else to talk to. Mom is already blaming me. Dad is yelling. They say I embarrassed the family, that I should have kept Lucas under control." She shook her head. "They're not comforting me, they're shaming me, just like they shamed you." She swallowed hard. "Evelyn, can you please just be my sister again?" The words cracked something inside me. The little girl who used to braid Olivia's hair, who used to share a room with her, who used to protect her from nightmares. That girl stirred. I took a slow breath. Being sisters doesn't erase the past. I whispered, I know. And it doesn't mean I'll forget. I don't want you to forget, she said. I want to change. Silence again. Heavy, real. Finally I nodded. A small nod, but real. Olivia let out a trembling breath, halfway between a sob and a gasp. Thank you, she whispered, but I wasn't done. There will be boundaries, I said softly. You can't treat people the way you used to. Not me, not anyone. I understand. You'll have to rebuild your life from scratch. I will. You might struggle. I deserve to. And I won't fix it for you. I don't want you to, she said quickly. We sat there quietly for the first time in years. We felt like sisters again, not perfect, not healed, but beginning. Olivia wiped her tears, stood up slowly, and said, I'm going to stay at a hotel tonight. I need space. I nodded. Before leaving, she hesitated at the door. Evelyn, I'm really sorry. I know. I whispered, and she left. Ethan came back moments later, sat beside me, and pulled me into his arms. You did the right thing, he murmured. I don't know. I whispered, I do. He kissed the top of my head, his warmth wrapping around me like a blanket. This is just the beginning, he said, and I knew he was right. Everything had changed tonight. And everything that came next would change us even more. For a long moment, I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I just stood there watching my daughter's face crumble, her fingers trembling over the piano keys as if she couldn't decide whether to run to me or hide from me. And I understood, deeply, painfully, that everything she had confessed upstairs, every tear she had swallowed alone, every heartbreak she had absorbed quietly, she had done it because she believed I needed protecting. My daughter, my sweet, messy, stubborn girl, had been shielding me from a world she thought would break me, and in doing so she broke herself. Mom, she whispered again, smaller this time, almost soundless. I lowered myself slowly onto the piano bench beside her. You don't have to pretend anymore, I said softly, not with me. That was all it took. Her face collapsed, not dramatically, not loudly, just crumpled like something inside her finally stopped holding itself together. Her shoulders shook once, then violently, and she folded into me, her forehead pressing into my collarbone as her hands fisted my sweater. I didn't want you to feel useless, she choked out. I didn't want you to feel like a burden. You were already struggling so much, and I thought if I just took more responsibility, if I grew up a little faster, you wouldn't be disappointed in yourself. I just wanted to help you, Mom. My throat closed. You thought I would be disappointed in myself because of you? She nodded, her hair brushing my jaw, damp from tears. I know I'm not easy. I know I cause problems. I know I make mistakes. I didn't want to be another thing that made your life harder. God. I felt the floor tilt under me because she wasn't lying. She believed every word she was saying. She truly believed she was a burden, my child. The same girl who once cried for an hour because she thought stepping on a ladybug made her a monster, was carrying the weight of being not enough, a weight I never put on her, a weight she had built alone in silence. I cupped her face gently and lifted her chin so she would look at me. Her lashes were wet and stuck together, her cheeks blotchy from crying. You have never been a burden. I said firm, clear, absolute, and you will never be a burden. Do you hear me? She nodded, but her eyes searched mine like she was still trying to decide whether to believe me. And you don't have to grow up early. You don't have to protect me from life. I am the mother, Maya. I'm supposed to carry you, not the other way around. Her lips trembled. But when you lost your hearing, everything changed. You stopped smiling. You stopped talking to people. You shut everyone out. I thought it was my job to make sure the world didn't hurt you more. I closed my eyes. Because she was right, I had shut down. I was the one who created that distance. Not her, not her. I'm sorry. I whispered. I'm so sorry I made you feel alone. I didn't realize how much you were carrying. Her shoulders tightened. She swallowed. I wanted to tell you, so many times, but every time I opened my mouth, something stopped me. Like, if I told you what I was going through, you would break, and I didn't want to be the reason. You could never break me, I said softly. Not you. She leaned into me again, quieter this time, her breathing steadier, though every so often she hiccuped softly from how hard she had cried. We sat like that for minutes, maybe hours, time dissolving into the hum of the house, the quiet warmth between us, the slight tremble in her fingers as they curled against my sleeve. Then she pulled back a little. "So what now?" she asked. Her voice was thin, raw. "You can hear again. You know everything now. What are you going to do?" I smiled, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "First, I'm going to make sure you never hide your pain again. From now on, if something hurts you, if something scares you, if something breaks your heart, you tell me, immediately, no exceptions." She nodded slowly. "Second," I continued, squeezing her hand, "I'm going to talk to your boyfriend tomorrow at school." Her head snapped up. "Mom, what?" "I'm just going to ask him why he thinks he's allowed to hurt my daughter's heart." "Mom, no, please, please don't do that. I'll die. I'll actually die." "Well, then I'll go to his house with cookies and a very polite request to never speak to you again." "Mom?" The slight panic in her voice made me laugh, and something in her face eased. Just a little. I reached for her hands, turning them over, tracing the faint indentations from the grove where she had dug her nails into her palms days ago, trying to hide her heartbreak. "You're not hiding things from me anymore," I said gently. "Not when it hurts you like this," she inhaled shakily. "Okay, okay," she nodded. "And third," I said, tapping her forehead lightly, "we're having ice cream for dinner." Her eyes widened. "But you hate ice cream." "I do," I said. "But I think today's about you." She blinked at me surprised, touched, confused. And I saw something shift behind her eyes, something like relief, something like the fragile, recovering quiet of a child who hadn't been held enough during the scariest moments of her life. We got up together. We walked toward the kitchen. But before we reached the doorway, she tugged on my sleeve. "Mom, yes, you're really back, right? Not just hearing, you're back." I paused, then I pulled her tightly into my arms. "I'm back," I whispered into her hair, completely, "and I'm never leaving you alone in the dark again." She closed her eyes, leaning into the hug, her breath warm against my shoulder. "Okay," she whispered. But neither of us knew that what happened the next morning, what I heard next, would change everything again, and this time it wouldn't just change my life. It would change hers forever. The next morning felt different. Not because I could hear again, not because the world sounded louder or clearer or fuller than it had in a month, but because my daughter was lighter. She sat across from me at breakfast, her hair still damp from the shower, humming under her breath while eating cereal. It was the kind of humming she only did when she felt safe, something I hadn't heard in weeks. Every few seconds she glanced at me, and every time I caught her looking, she gave me a tiny smile, like she was still checking if I was really there, not physically, but emotionally. Present, steady, I kept smiling back, but under the surface a knot had formed in my stomach, because today I wanted answers, not from her, but from the boy who broke her heart. I wasn't going to yell at him. I wasn't going to confront him in public. I wasn't going to make a scene. I just needed to understand why someone who claimed to care about my daughter could treat her like she was disposable. When Maya finished her cereal, she stood, pushing her hair behind her ear. You don't have to walk me to school today." "I know," I said casually, "but I want to." She froze just a fraction of a second. But I saw it, the way her shoulders sighed in relief. She didn't want to walk alone today, not really. "Okay," she said quietly. We left the house together, and for a moment we were just two people walking down the sidewalk. Mother and daughter, close enough to touch but respectfully giving each other space. She swung her backpack lazily, humming again. The sky was overcast, the air damp and heavy, but for the first time in a long time my chest didn't hurt. When we reached the school, she hesitated at the gate. "You can go now," she said, but her voice lacked conviction. "I'll stay for a bit." I replied gently, "I just want to see you go in." She rolled her eyes, pretending to be embarrassed but unable to hide a smile. "Fine." She walked toward her classmates, and that's when I heard it. Low, whispered, sharp, a voice I didn't recognize. Male, young, coming from behind one of the pillars near the entrance. "Dude, she's here. Don't look, don't. She'll think you want her back." A second voice snorted. "Why would I? She's too much work, always emotional, always overthinking. I swear I only dated her because she made me look good. People thought I got soft or something. Had to fix that." My stomach turned. I didn't need to guess. They were talking about Maya. My daughter didn't notice. She was focused on finding her best friend, waving through the crowd. But I stood there frozen, my hands curling into fists. The boy speaking stepped into view, all thin, wearing a backpack covered in patches. His friend elbowed him, nodding toward the schoolyard. SHH, she's right there. The boy smirked. Relax, she won't hear. She's too busy pretending to be fine. A quiet, mocking laugh followed. Something inside me snapped, not loudly, not violently, just decisively. I walked toward them, not quickly, not aggressively, but with a calmness that felt foreign even to me, a calmness sharpened by clarity. The first boy noticed me too late. The second one straightened, eyes widening slightly. Morning. I said evenly. They froze. You were talking about my daughter. The boys exchanged a look. Panicked, guilty, defensive. I wasn't. We didn't. The first one stammered. You were, I said, and unfortunately for you, I heard every word. He swallowed. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't lecture. I didn't humiliate him in front of the crowd that was slowly beginning to notice. Instead, I stepped closer, just enough so he could hear the steel in my whisper. You don't get to talk about her like that. His Adam's apple bobbed hard. You don't get to break her heart and then brag about it. He looked down. And you don't get to act like she was lucky to have you. It's the other way around, and someday you'll realize it. Not because I said so, but because life will teach you what real value looks like. His face turned pale. Then I let the anger fall away. Slowly, deliberately, grow up. I said quietly, not for her, for yourself. I turned and walked away before either boy could respond. I didn't need anything from them. Not an apology, not fear, not remorse, because I wasn't there to fix him. I was there to protect her. When I turned back toward the gate, I saw Maya standing there. She wasn't close enough to have heard every word, but she heard enough. Her eyes were wide, her lips parted, her backpack hung loosely from one shoulder. Mom. She breathed. I walked to her slowly. She looked up at me, really looked, her eyes searching, absorbing, understanding. You heard him, she whispered. I nodded, and you still defended me. I smiled softly. Of course I did. Her throat worked as if she was swallowing something thick. Her hands trembled slightly, but not with fear, more with emotion she wasn't used to showing. No one has ever done that for me, she whispered. Well, I said gently, brushing her cheek, get used to it, because I'm here, I'm listening, I'm staying. Her eyes glistened, and then, slowly, hesitantly, she stepped forward and wrapped her arms around me. Right there in front of everyone, not caring who saw, not caring what they thought. Just holding me with the full force of a child who finally felt safe. I hugged her back just as tightly. When she pulled away, I cupped her face with both hands. I love you more than anything in this world, I said quietly, and I'm never going to let you walk through your pain alone again. She nodded, tears clinging to her lashes. Okay, she whispered. Okay, Mom. I watched her walk into school. Not just walking, but walking differently. Lighter, straighter, stronger, and as the bell rang and she disappeared into the hallway, I realized something. Losing my hearing had changed my life, but regaining it gave me back my daughter. And that changed everything. Forever.